Hey, what's going on there, everybody? This is Sammy Leggy here, representing Team JVS. Here you guys an official review for Captain America Brave New World. This is the feature debut of Sam Wilson, now is the proclaimed Captain America. What did I think about it? So there's been a lot of different perspectives and feelings and emotions about it, even from my own team. And what I'll say about my own team, I appreciate everyone's opinion. At the end of the day, we are about making sure that we're just not going through the grain. Everybody that's on my team that's seen it, they saw it before anybody else, and this was their opinion. So you can see all their feature reviews ahead of time. No one has seen my review, my reaction, or anything. We did have an opportunity to do some other coverage with the film, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you my clear, concise thoughts about this film. So first on deck, what did I think about the portrayal of how they're handling Captain America now in the world that's being built in this film? I love the fact that you got Carl back as Isaiah Bradley. I think that him coming off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a really good add and a touch to it. From the very first point you see the first trailer for it, and you're looking like, oh, this is a Manchurian Candidate situation. What does this mean? How far, how deep seated and evil this actually is, and what does this actually progressively mean? The other big thing is, of course, we know the late great amazing actor that was originally portraying Thunderbolt Ross was replaced by Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, for all intents and purposes, is an amazing actor. But the question was, would he truly go dive deep and play a villain in a Marvel movie? What I will say is that he was fully committed in every way, shape, or form of playing a very different version of Thunderbolt Ross. And conditionally, if you've seen The Incredible Hulk, that's a lot of people's critiques of this film. If you saw the original Incredible Hulk and progressively saw him going down the ways, and I think even going back to like, was it Iron Man 2? Was it end of Iron Man 2? I can't really remember. Where Thunderbolt Ross showed up at the end of one of those. I can't remember which one it was. It may have been at the end of Incredible Hulk. I can't remember which one, but when you first see, him and of course Tony, or him and Sam, you kind of knew like, okay, this is going to be a character that's going to stick around for a long period of time. But this film, conditionally going from Incredible Hulk to what this is, it really truly does add connective tissue and a progression. If you really truly liked the way the Hulk was a very fierce threat, I think that you're gonna love what they do with the Red Hulk in this film. Truth be told, for me, I haven't seen a Hulk be mad and be real and be like a true feeling of a threat, honestly, since Iron Man 2. Well, no, it wasn't Iron Man 2. It was Avengers 2. When Age of Ultron happened and you got to see like the Hulk be somebody that, oh man, like, how is Iron Man going to stop him? There's no way that Iron Man stopped him. And then even when Iron Man did stop him, everybody kind of questioned it. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work. We got to see a true ferocious Hulk. The most that we really got to see of something like that was in Incredible Hulk. And I think that the way they handle Red Hulk in this conditionally is really good. But let's go ahead and kind of go through the gambit of the actual film itself structurally. This was directed by Julius Ona. The way that they kind of handled it, coming from Endgame, of course, Captain America officially gave up the shield over to Sam Wilson, and it was a question of whether or not this was something that he could do, and a question of something that he wanted to do. Coming from Endgame going to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he really thought that this is not something that he's earned. This is not something that he should do, and unfortunately, there were casualties that happened in the midst of that to the name of Captain America, as well as to his progression into moving into the destiny of Captain America. Anthony Mackie in this film, his goal to me is to make everyone around him shine. I feel like he's got to have the charisma and being devoted as being the main character and the leading man, while also making sure that everybody else, you care about everybody else on the screen. And was this something that he could do? And I truly believe he does. I think that he adds so many different dimensions to certain characters that I think would have just looked like side add-ons in this film. And there is also an antagonist in this one that also without spoiling anything, has a different connection to Thunderbolt Ross that I did not expect in this film. But in terms of just Anthony Mackie complimenting everyone, his his relationship and the way that he's able to peer off with Harrison Ford, I think works. A lot of their line delivery and dialogue is elevating the film as a whole. Whenever Anthony Mackie is working with Carl, Isaiah Bradley, those scenes elevate the film on an emotional level and connect different things. The other side of this is Danny Ramirez is playing the role of Joaquin, who is the new Falcon. And so, how do you go and add a new character without it feeling like this is just a fill-in character? Much like a lot of people, the way they looked at without saying too much, Iron Man, and of course his side person, and then of course Captain America and his side person that was Sam Wilson. We didn't want that to be. We wanted to add a different dimension to that, so there was a true friendship that you can kind of feel off screen with him and Danny. And I think that even more so, like, again, he has to lend himself to everyone. And I think that he does a really good job of that without saying too much. But this is the thing, and I'll make sure that everybody knows this. If anybody has a critique of this film and their perspective on the expectation of what this should be, the film in and of itself, if you truly look at it, you have a brand new Captain America that the general population, you have to have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You have to have seen the end of Endgame to even understand what this actually means. And even if you've actually only looked at Endgame and then you looked at this film later, you're not going to understand anything about how this happened or why this happened. Or even deeper than that, you have a brand new Captain America in a film with a new Red Hulk without having any understanding, without any Hulk to make that make sense. And on top of that, you've got a brand new Thunderbolt Ross in Harrison Ford. So the expectation of people to accept this film is vastly different. And so that's one thing that I can say will probably make people very jarring and very uncomfortable, and offbeat, really expecting something different. The other side of it, unfortunately for the film, and unfortunately for the decision from a comic book standpoint, the way that it worked, Steve Rogers went, then it was Bucky Barnes, then it was Sam Wilson from a comic book standpoint, and then it went right back to Steve Rogers. The way that they handled it in the MCU is it went from Steve Rogers, it makes sense, to Sam Wilson. And the whole aspect of Falcon and Soldier is to see whether or not it would go back or forth between the two. Much like Battle for the Hood or Battle for the Cowl with the Batman series in the comic books. So the fact that now you have a new Captain America that not only is black, but it's been kind of maneuvered over all scenes. There is a lot of exposition that happens in this film. If you're looking at the film to stand alone on its own, it cannot do that without what was previously done in the Disney Plus series, which is a fault to the film, unfortunately, because you don't have enough context or background. You just choose to accept. And then on top of that, with Thunderbolt Ross in this film, it's a very different version of Thunderbolt Ross that we've never seen before. All the things that he's done, you really have to just, for face value, accept who he is in this film. Now, I think from a human standpoint, we know people can change. There are certain circumstances that put them in. And I think that Harrison Ford plays that vulnerability very well. Like sometimes he is hot, sometimes he is very cold, sometimes he's very vulnerable, and sometimes he's very harsh. Sometimes he's very abrasive, and then sometimes he just kind of dials back. But they can feel tonally disjointed. There's one scene that happens where it's a real serious scene with him and Sam Wilson. Then the next moment, it's just like a completely different narrative. And so from a tonal standpoint, it just feels weird and disjointed. But for all intents and purposes, this is a Marvel film. Most of these films feel disjointed. Like it's not like the tonal side of it is something that I am always going to critique, because at some point I'm suspending belief. So the thing that I felt was okay with that was that this is the first Hulk that I've seen that's been ferocious. And I love that. And I also love that I cared about the human side of Thunderbolt Ross, which I've never felt that way before. The thing that I will add to this is a lot of people kind of felt like this felt like there's been a lot of stuff that was added and removed. I do think towards the third act, certain aspect of it felt like it was a little rushed. But to be quite honest with you, if I really want to be honest, if you go to the Black Panther and the way the Black Panther, the very first Black Panther, the way that CGI fight at the end and how quickly that collapsed and went to where it went to, I still, to this day have issue with that, but I don't dissolve the film for that perspective. But with this, I think that the entertainment value of what's really happening and the stepping blocks that are happening to progress us into whatever the new stratosphere is something that we just happen to choose to accept. And I think the general audiences aren't at this point. But this is the other thing that I'll say. Think about the films that have come before this film. You got Deadpool, Wolverine. The reason why that movie functionally worked is because of everything that came before that you've seen. And you're just having a crazy mess of a rated R film. But before that, it was the Marvels. Unfortunately, that didn't land with a lot of audiences. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out. From an emotional standpoint, the first two movies that left it to that point capitalized on our emotional impact for it, so it worked as a threequel. Then you got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That did not work for the general audience. Think about Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Same exact situation, expectation, high expectation, but unfortunately underdelivered. Thor: Love and Thunder, same exact situation. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. A lot of people felt emotionally connected to it, but then there was still a lot of backlash. So I think that the general audience feels this level of being jaded, as well as not accepting that there's going to be a quality deliver. And I think going into this film, it's easy to have that perspective of, I don't know if this is going to work. And I don't know if I even accept this actor, this character as being the benefactor Captain America. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to. And I think that, the way that it's structured and the way that it's handled, even down to the relationships, like I said, with Danny and Anthony portraying the role of Joaquin and Sam, you're choosing to accept it. But a lot of people forget that the character showed up. And of course, like before, within the Winter Soldier, you knew who this character was. And of course, he showed up in Falcon Winter Soldier. But like a lot of people kind of like, I don't know if I can accept him as my Falcon. It feels like this is something to telegraph, even if this character was who he becomes from the comics. So all that to say, if I wanted to be overly critical as a critic, I can say that there's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of tonal changes. There's a lot of things that you can feel like from the way that it's framed and filmed. There's a lot of things that are left the cutting room floor. I don't have a issue with the CG. I think just progressively, there are a lot of moments I felt like the set pieces could have been a lot more grander. The destruction could have been a lot more crazier. And they kind of kept it really tight into the chest and really safe. A lot of the fights in the very beginning of it, I was like, I don't know how Sam Wilson's supposed to fight, let alone a Hulk or anybody else, if he's having problems with this. All that being said, those are my critiques of the film. But those are not things that I look down on the film as a whole. I think from an entertainment standpoint, all the aerial fights and the fight scenes themselves, very capitalized, very entertaining, and I actually really enjoyed them. I didn't think there was any like really bad CG, any different or bad than what I've seen from any other Marvel movies. Like Thor: Love and Thunder, I mean, I never forget the little boy's head and a little orb. I never forgot that. But if I made a comparison to some of the stuff I've seen recently, it's really not. It's not that bad for me from an action standpoint. From an emotional standpoint, I think that the things that they do with Isaiah Bradley still do work. I think that they set it up perfectly in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But again, because this relies on exposition, you have to take this to face value. If this is your first time seeing Isaiah Bradley, you're like, why are you putting this man in this situation? But if you see the show, it adds on. So if you were a fan of An Incredible Hulk, if you were a fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier, this adds to your enjoyment of the film, which I was, for me personally. The other thing that I think that actually really does work, I think that Sam functionally works, but it's this film required him to not be, how do I put this? To not be the center of attention. He is the connective tissue of the film. And I think conditionally, if you're saying that he is Captain America, then you look at him as being the main lead person, the charismatic one that everybody focuses and hones into. But I think that every single scene that Anthony Mackie is, from a physicality standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, he hit every single number. Whether he needed to be happy, he was there. If he needed to be different, he was there. If he needed to be emotionally vulnerable, he was there. If he needed to be like vulnerable, he absolutely was there. But do you look at him in this film as being the main lead? A lot of times you cannot, because his job is to focus on making sure that everybody else is where it needs to be, which I think is even a harder job. But yeah, those are my direct thoughts of Captain America: Brave New World. Oh man, how did I even forget? Giancarlo Esposito, the short amount of time he's in it, he has some of the dopest fight scenes. Like his presence. If you're going to give me anything else in this film, if they would have kept it more like a Winter Soldier situation and you didn't have a Hulk in there and you just had Giancarlo Esposito and him being a whole pound, him going up against Anthony Mackie, I've been fine with that. I think the reason why they wanted to add a Hulk is to solidify that if Steve Rogers was in this situation, could he go up against the Hulk? And one thing I will say, they do explain how they can actually, because I was kind of like, there's no way. There's no way that like a human Anthony Mackie, and they address it. They really do address it. And from a written standpoint, they address in dialogue what he thinks about it, how this actually is going to even work. Can this even be possible? And I love how they do address it. I do think the fight could have been a lot longer, could have been a lot more destructive, and it definitely could have been way more of a payoff from an entertainment standpoint. But I love how they actually handled it, and I love how they handled the way they handled the Red Hulk. But yeah, Giancarlo Esposito, whole pound. Love him in this. Every scene that he was in. There's not any other added secret stuff. And the other thing that I'll say is that from a comic book standpoint, a lot of people are probably expecting to see some things and people. That is not in this film. There's only one end credit scene, and that's after the main credits. There is no mid-credit scene. Really, truly, there's not anything to push or propel us into a future. The one end credit scene is very important to the future, but it's not enough. It's really just exposition and communication. Like, it's not something you're actually going to see and be like, oh, wow, this is great. But yeah, my rating on this film, I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. I actually do find a lot of entertaining value to Captain America: Brave New World. I think that they had a huge lift, and I think that a lot of things were maneuvered and changed throughout. But from an entertainment standpoint, I think I'm actually down with this. And I would actually love to see where Sam Wilson goes moving forward. But there are some surprises here or there. But long story short, that is where I leave my perspective on Captain America: Brave New World. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for checking out our TikToks. If you don't know anything about our TikTok, go to the description bar below. We got a lot of stuff there, a lot of interview coverage there. If you like anime reviews, we got a lot of anime reviews there as well. But YouTube family, thank you guys so much for all your support and all you guys have done over the years. And yeah, we got a lot more Marvel coverage coming up. I think that Fantastic Four is going to be dropping this year, and a lot more news coming from San Diego Comic-Con and CinemaCon and other places as well. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace, people. Have a good night or a good day or whenever. I'm not sure. Bye, guys.